The phone's glow cut through our bedroom darkness like a tiny lighthouse beacon. It was about to wreck mine completely. Laura's thumb moved across the screen with a practiced stealth. I watched through half-closed eyes as my wife of 8 years smiled at whatever message had arrived at 2 in the morning. Not a work emergency smile, not a family crisis smile. This was different, intimate. "Who's texting you this late?" I asked, my voice gravelly with sleep. Her fingers froze. The phone disappeared under her pillow faster than evidence at a crime scene. "Just work stuff." "Go back to sleep, Daniel. Work stuff that makes you smile like that?" She turned to face me, and even in the dim light, I could see the calculation behind her eyes. Laura had perfected that look during her climb up the marketing ladder, part sincerity, part steel. "Mind your own business," she said, the words soft but firm. Fair point. But then again, what's a marriage if not a business partnership? Time to audit the accounts. I lay there for a moment longer, counting the seconds of her breathing, the subtle shifts in the sheets. My life, my marriage, the narrative I'd built around trust, all teetering on the edge of a text message I had yet to see. By sunrise, I'd made 2 decisions that would change everything. First, I called in sick to my architecture firm, feigning a migraine. I needed a day to see the skeleton of my own life, to trace every line and foundation I had trusted to Laura. Second, I looked up Victor Reeves, a private investigator Nina had mentioned when her own husband started coming home late. Victor's office sat above a dry cleaner in downtown Portland, the kind of place that smelled faintly of ammonia and secrets. Everything about him fit the part perfectly: rumpled suit, coffee-stained tie, and eyes that had witnessed far too much. "Marriage surveillance," he said, without looking up. His voice was dry, almost bored. $700 a day plus expenses. "You sure you want to know what she's doing?" "I'm an architect," I told him, standing taller than I felt. "I like blueprints. Show me the structure of my wife's life." He finally looked up, eyebrow raised. "Blueprints don't always reveal intent, Mr. Daniels. Just the paths people take." I nodded. "Start today. I want to know everything. Who she sees, where she goes, what she hides. I want evidence, not excuses." Victor closed his case file with a snap that echoed across the office. "Consider it done." As I stepped out into the damp Portland morning, rain slicking the sidewalks, the city felt different. And for the first time in years, I understood. The world I thought I knew, my life, my marriage, was a blueprint I had never fully read. By nightfall, I would begin to see the lines, and some of them would lead straight to betrayal. Victor's first report arrived 3 days later via email, a digital folder labeled LB Activities, October 15th to October 17th. The photos told a story my marriage license had never authorized. Laura leaving her office at 5:30. Laura arriving at Pinnacle Fitness at 6:15. Laura not working out, but disappearing into the back offices where Mark Thompson ran his trendy fitness empire. Laura emerging 2 hours later, hair mussed, lipstick gone, looking like she'd had a very different kind of workout. The text message screenshots were worse. Victor had somehow intercepted their communications, details I didn't want to know about his methods. Mark's messages read like a teenager's fantasy. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Hotel room 412 is ready." Laura's responses made my coffee taste like acid. "He's working late again." "Perfect timing. You're so much better than him, better than me." That phrase stuck like a splinter under my fingernail. I studied the evidence spread across my drafting table like architectural plans for destruction. Laura thought she was running a clean operation, but every affair has structural weaknesses. Poor site security. Too much confidence in the foundation. No emergency exits. Nina knocked on my office door that afternoon. "You look terrible, Daniel. Everything okay at home?" Nina Peterson had worked in the office next to mine for 4 years. She was sharp, observant, and had an intuitive understanding of when marriages were developing stress fractures. More importantly, she'd never liked Laura. "Define okay," I said, sliding one of Victor's photos across my desk. Nina studied the image of my wife kissing Mark Thompson in the parking lot of the Four Points Hotel. "I'm sorry, Daniel, but I'm not surprised." "Meaning?" "Meaning at the Christmas party last year I saw how she looked at him. Like he was a promotion she wanted to apply for." Nina sat down across from my desk. "What are you going to do?" I opened my laptop and showed her Laura's work calendar. "Next Friday, company gala, Hilton Downtown Ballroom, 7 p.m. Laura was giving the quarterly presentation to all the major clients and stakeholders. The perfect stage. "Something theatrical," I said. The first gift I left Mark was simple: 4 slashed tires on his BMW outside the gym. I'd parked 3 blocks away and walked, wearing a baseball cap and keeping my head down. No cameras caught anything useful. The police report classified it as random vandalism, small gifts for small men. The second gift required more creativity. Victor had discovered Mark's obsession with his appearance went beyond normal vanity. The man spent more on skincare than most people spent on groceries. So when I mixed industrial-strength hair removal cream into his expensive face wash, I knew it would hurt where it mattered most. The photos Victor sent the next day showed Mark wearing a baseball cap pulled low, angry red patches visible on his neck and jaw. His Instagram account, usually flooded with shirtless selfies, went silent for a week. Laura's text messages grew increasingly paranoid. "Someone's watching us." "This feels wrong." Mark's responses revealed his true character. "You're being paranoid. Besides, what's your husband going to do? He's an architect, not a bodyguard." That stung more than I expected. Mark Thompson thought architects were soft. He was about to learn that we're very good at controlled demolitions. Nina helped with the third phase. Laura's office operated on gossip the way cars run on gasoline, pure fuel for the social engine. Nina began dropping careful comments during coffee breaks. "I heard Laura's been having a lot of late meetings lately. Funny how she always seems to finish work right when that gym owner picks up his messages." Within a week, the rumors had spread through 3 departments. Laura's co-workers started watching her more closely, noting the afternoon departures, the suspicious phone calls, the way she freshened her makeup before client dinners. Laura felt the pressure. Her texts to Mark became frantic. "People are looking at me funny." "I think he knows. We need to be more careful. Too late for careful." I'd been reading every word for 2 weeks. The company gala represented everything Laura had worked toward in her career. 6 years of climbing the corporate ladder, building relationships, positioning herself for the vice president role that would open up next quarter. She'd spent weeks preparing her presentation, rehearsing her speech, coordinating with the event planners. I'd spent the same 2 weeks preparing my own presentation. Friday evening, I arrived at the Hilton 3 hours early. The ballroom was still being decorated when I approached the AV tech, a college kid named Tyler who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Hey, I'm Daniel Peterson from Laura Peterson's team," I lied smoothly. "She asked me to check the presentation setup. Mind if I test the system?" Tyler shrugged and handed me the remote. "Just don't mess with the settings. Everything's calibrated for tonight." I uploaded my USB drive to the presentation laptop and made a simple change to Laura's file name. Her real presentation was now labeled backup_LP_presentation. My version was labeled LP_presentation. Tyler would never notice the difference. At 7:30, I watched Laura make her entrance. She looked stunning in a black cocktail dress that probably cost more than I made in a week. Mark arrived separately, playing the role of supportive business contact, but I caught the way his eyes followed her across the room. I found Nina near the bar. "Everything ready?" "Phone's recording," she said, tapping her purse. "This is going to destroy her career." "That's the idea." Laura took the stage at 8:15. 200 people filled the ballroom: clients, executives, competitors, journalists. Local business television was streaming live for the company's social media. "Good evening, everyone," Laura began, her voice carrying that perfect blend of confidence and warmth she'd mastered. "I'm excited to share our quarterly results and upcoming initiatives." She clicked the presentation remote. The screen behind her lit up with the company logo. Click. The quarterly revenue chart appeared, exactly as rehearsed. Laura smiled, relaxed into her rhythm. Click. Instead of market analysis data, the screen filled with a text message screenshot. "Can't wait to feel you inside me again. Hotel tonight? Sent by Laura to Mark, time-stamped 3 days earlier." Laura's voice died mid-sentence. The room fell silent, except for the quiet hum of the air conditioning and the clicking of phone cameras capturing the moment. Click. Another text. "Daniel's working late again. Perfect for us. You're incredible in bed, so much better than him." Laura fumbled for the remote, but I'd programmed a 30-second delay between her clicks and my slideshow. She was trapped on stage, watching her private shame displayed for everyone who mattered in her professional life. Click. A photo from Victor's surveillance. Laura and Mark kissing outside the Four Points Hotel, her wedding ring clearly visible on the hand pressed against his chest. Mark stood up from his table near the back, face flushed red. "Turn it off." Click. Victor's masterpiece. A screenshot from Mark's phone showing a photo he'd sent to his gym buddies. Laura in her underwear with the caption, "Nailing the architect's wife. She says I'm twice the man he is." The room erupted. Laura's boss, Patricia Williams, looked like someone had served her a plate of broken glass. The company's biggest client, an elderly man who'd built his fortune on family values, shook his head in disgust and headed for the exit. Laura finally reached the laptop and killed the presentation, but the damage was total. 200 people had witnessed her humiliation. The business news cameras had captured everything live. Mark pushed through the crowd toward the stage, shouting at me, "You sick freak! You ruined everything." I met him halfway, and for the first time in years, I felt completely alive. "I ruined everything?" "Mark, I just shared your business accomplishments with a wider audience. Isn't that what entrepreneurs want?" He swung at me. I'd expected it. The man was all biceps and no brain, telegraphing his punch like a freight train. I stepped aside and let his momentum carry him into a table of wine glasses. Laura stood frozen on stage, staring at the crowd of people who would define her professional future. Every face showed the same expression, disgust mixed with fascination. The kind of look people reserve for car accidents and public meltdowns. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced to the room, "I'd like to thank my wife for demonstrating the importance of brand integrity and ethical business practices. As you can see, some partnerships require immediate termination. The aftermath unfolded faster than a controlled demolition. Social media exploded within minutes. #Gallagate started trending locally within an hour. Someone had live-streamed the entire presentation to TikTok, where it racked up 50,000 views before Laura could even leave the hotel. Patricia Williams cornered Laura near the bathroom 20 minutes after the presentation ended. "Clean out your office Monday morning. Security will escort you out." "Patricia, I can explain." "Explain what? That you've been using company resources to coordinate your affair? That you've made our firm the laughingstock of the business community? That our biggest client just walked out because of your behavior?" Laura tried to salvage something. "This was a setup. My husband orchestrated this whole thing. He's mentally unstable." "Your husband didn't write those text messages, Laura. He didn't take those photos. He didn't force you to betray your marriage and your professional obligations." Patricia's voice carried across the ballroom, drawing more stares. "You did that all by yourself." Mark hadn't fared better. His gym clients had seen the presentation footage online and were asking uncomfortable questions. How could they trust a fitness coach who bragged about destroying families? 2 major corporate accounts canceled their memberships before midnight. I watched the destruction from the hotel bar, nursing a whiskey and observing my wife's world collapse in real time. Nina joined me after Laura and Mark finally left the building. "Feel better?" she asked. I feel like I've been holding my breath for months and can finally breathe again, I said. Architects spend their careers making sure buildings don't fall down. Turns out I'm pretty good at making them collapse too. Nina raised her glass. To structural engineering. To knowing when a foundation is rotten. But the evening wasn't finished. Laura had sent Mark a text before leaving. Your place. We need to figure out how to fix this. Victor had intercepted it, of course, and forwarded it to me immediately. Some people never learn. They were about to discover that their public humiliation was just the opening act. Mark's fitness studio occupied a converted warehouse in the Arts District, the kind of trendy space that attracted people who wanted to feel edgy while staying perfectly safe. I arrived at 11 p.m. and found his BMW parked in the back alley, next to Laura's Lexus. They were inside, probably planning damage control or plotting revenge against me. It didn't matter. I had different plans for both of them. Victor had taught me a useful trick. Most security systems in converted buildings were installed by the lowest bidder and maintained by people who'd rather be home watching television. Mark's back door alarm was the kind you could disable with a strong magnet and 10 seconds of patience. I slipped inside through the rear entrance and made my way toward Mark's office, where light spilled under the door and angry voices carried through thin walls. Complete disaster. My career is over. Laura's voice, sharp with panic. Your career? What about my business? 3 corporate accounts canceled today. 3! We can fix this. Maybe if we… Fix this? Laura, everyone saw those texts. Everyone knows I've been sleeping with you. I positioned myself outside the office door and started recording on my phone. Sometimes the best evidence comes from people who don't know they're being watched. I never should have trusted you, Mark continued. You said your husband was clueless. You said he'd never figure it out. He was clueless. Someone helped him. Maybe that woman from his office. Well, congratulations, genius. You picked the wrong husband to cheat on. I'd heard enough. I pushed open the office door without knocking. Laura and Mark stood on opposite sides of his desk like lawyers preparing for trial. Both looked terrible. Laura's perfect makeup was smudged. Mark's designer shirt was wrinkled and sweat-stained. Guilt and stress had aged them both 5 years in 5 hours. Don't stop on my account, I said, holding up my recording phone. This is fascinating stuff. Mark stepped forward, trying to look threatening. Get out of here, Daniel. This is private property. Private property? Mark, you've been enjoying my private property for 3 months. I thought we were past worrying about boundaries. Laura found her voice. Daniel, we need to talk about this like adults. Adults? I laughed, and the sound echoed strangely in the empty gym beyond the office. Adults don't sneak around hotel rooms and trash their marriages for cheap thrills. Adults take responsibility for their choices. Mark moved toward me, his gym-trained muscles tensed for violence. You want to settle this like men? Men don't steal other men's wives, Mark. Men certainly don't brag about it to their gym buddies. I showed him my phone screen, displaying the screenshot he'd sent around earlier. But since you asked so nicely, let's settle it. He swung first, just like at the gala. This time I was ready. I ducked under his punch and drove my shoulder into his midsection, sending him backward into his own desk. The impact scattered papers and knocked over his laptop. Laura screamed, "Stop it! Both of you!" Mark scrambled to his feet, grabbing a paperweight from his desk. I'll kill you! With what? Your charming personality? I sidestepped his wild swing and grabbed his wrist, twisting until he dropped the paperweight. Here's some free fitness advice, Mark. Cardio is important, but so is strategy. I shoved him hard against the office window. The glass cracked but held. Mark slumped to the floor, dazed and bleeding from a cut on his forehead. Laura backed against the wall, her perfect composure finally shattered. You're insane, Daniel. I'm calling the police. Go ahead, I said, holding up my phone again. I've got recorded evidence of Mark threatening to kill me, plus trespassing charges when he broke into my marriage. I'm sure the police will find it very interesting." She didn't reach for her phone. I turned back to Mark, who was struggling to stand. "Here's how this works. You're going to stay away from my wife. You're going to close this gym and leave town. If I see you again, if I hear you've contacted Laura, if I even catch you shopping at the same grocery store, I'll make tonight's gala presentation look like amateur hour." "You can't. I can do whatever I want, Mark." "You see, you made a critical error in judgment. You assumed I was just another suburban husband who'd roll over and accept being betrayed. But I'm the guy who notices when structures are unsound. And I'm very good at bringing them down safely." Mark wiped blood from his forehead with his shirt sleeve. "Laura, tell him." "Tell me what?" I looked at my wife, still pressed against the wall like she was trying to disappear into the paint. "Tell me how this was all my fault? Tell me how I didn't pay enough attention, didn't appreciate her properly, didn't satisfy her emotional needs?" Laura's mouth opened, but no sound emerged. "Here's what Laura's going to tell me," I continued. "She's going to explain why she threw away 8 years of marriage for a man who brags about sleeping with her to his gym buddies. She's going to explain why she thought I was too stupid to figure out her little affair. Most importantly, she's going to explain what she plans to do now that everyone in our social and professional circles knows exactly what kind of person she really is." The silence stretched between us like a bridge ready to collapse. Finally, Laura spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never meant for it to go this far. But it did go this far, and now everyone knows whose business it really was." I turned and walked toward the office door, leaving them both standing in the wreckage of their secret relationship. Behind me, I heard Laura start to cry, not the elegant tears she used during sad movies, but the ugly, desperate sobs of someone who'd just realized the cost of their choices. "Daniel, wait!" I paused at the threshold and looked back one final time. Laura stood in the middle of Mark's destroyed office, her black dress rumpled, her career in ruins, her marriage demolished by her own hand. Mark slumped against his cracked window, blood trickling down his face, his business reputation shattered beyond repair. "Mind my own business?" I said, letting my words hang in the air like smoke. "Sweetheart, you just learned. It was always my business." I walked out into the Portland night, leaving chaos behind me, and for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. The foundation was clear now. Time to build something better.